Welcome to Saturday of Holy Week. Isaiah told us years ago that Jesus was going to be placed in a rich man's tomb. But who was this guy? Who was Joseph of Arimathea? We don't know much about him, but what we know is that he was a rich man, and he was the person that removed Jesus from the cross, wrapped him in white linen, and placed him in his own tomb, and then had the stone rolled upon it. It wasn't Mary, it wasn't Peter, it was Joseph. What I can presume about this guy is that Jesus meant something to him. Jesus was special. This wasn't just a guy offering his tomb up to just anyone. He was offering his tomb to the most special person in the world. Joseph somehow knew in his heart who Jesus was and gave up a very special place for him. This act brings us into Holy Saturday, into Saturday of Holy Week. It's kind of a weird day for many of us, even for Jesus and his disciples. Can you imagine what's going through the disciples' heads? Even though they were told that this day would come, they had a hard time believing it. We relate to this, don't we? We can understand some of these questions maybe they had. We have a hard time believing in many things, even though we've seen them, we've read about them. We especially have a hard time with the unknown or the things that we don't understand. Why did Jesus have to die? After all of the good that he did, the person that he was, why was this death the way that it had to be? What do you think is going on in the disciples' heads on this day? What about you? How do you explain the hard things in your life? How do you cope with something that happens in a moment's notice? It wasn't long before Saturday that the disciples were sharing the Last Supper with Jesus. It was only actually a few hours before. But now the man that shared this Last Supper with them was in a tomb, alone and silent. And on Saturday, maybe it seems as if God is silent. We are silent. The disciples are silent. When something happens in our life that we don't understand or we don't even wish upon anyone, we find silence, don't we? Sometimes when we're in the midst of trying times, we hear the silence, and it's very easy to assume that God isn't there. We don't see him, we can't feel him, and our minds lead us to believe that God is distant, or maybe he's somewhere else. Maybe he just isn't there at all. God is silent. He made himself heard on Friday, but on Saturday he's silent. On Friday he tore the curtains of the temple. He opened the graves of the dead. He blocked the sun of the sky, and he sacrificed the Son of heaven. This all happened on Friday. Earth heard much of God on Friday. But then on this Saturday, nothing. Jesus is silent. God is silent. Saturday is silent. This silence torments us. Is God angry? Is God disappointed in me? God knows that Jesus is in the tomb. Why doesn't he do something? Or God knows the struggles that I'm battling with. God knows maybe that our career is not what we want it to be. Or my finances are so out of control that I can't keep my head above water right now. Or my marriage is so far gone, I don't know how to fix it. And in this silence, we ask, why doesn't he act? Why doesn't God reach in and miraculously make it all better? What are you supposed to do until he does? Do what Jesus does. Do what Jesus did. Lie still, stay silent, and trust God. Acts says, "You will not abandon me to the grave, nor will you let your Holy One see decay." Jesus knew that God would not leave him alone in that grave. Sunday was coming. You need to know that while you're in the midst of a Saturday in your life, hope is coming. God will not leave you alone in your struggle. His silence, the silence that you're bearing, is not his absence. Saturdays have a purpose. This Saturday has a purpose. Saturdays let us feel the strength of God. If God had reached in and pulled Jesus out of the tomb as soon as he was placed in it, would we have appreciated that? Would the disciples have appreciated that? Were God to solve each one of our problems the moment they arise, would you appreciate his strength? Probably not. Because we wouldn't have these moments of reflection, these moments of questioning. We would just continue on as if nothing happened and never learned from the trials. Jesus went through some trials, and so do we. But God is never distant. He's right here. Just as he was with Jesus in the tomb, God inserts the Saturdays in our lives so that we can learn from them. And so that we can call out to God and realize that he is here with us to see us through. I'll leave you with this today. One of my all-time favorite scriptures that has been a source of my hope and peace throughout my life is in Psalm chapter 46, verse 10. And it says, he says, "Be still and know that I am God." If you're in this space between Friday when God spoke so loud that and tore the curtain in two so that we could share in a relationship with him, know that Saturday is coming. If you're going through a Friday like what Jesus had gone through, know that Sunday is coming. Silent Saturday is almost over. The trials and the struggles that you are dealing with have an outcome, and that outcome is hope. Hope in Jesus, hope in the resurrection, hope in a God who continues to whisper during our Saturdays. He continues to whisper, "Be still and know that I am God." I pray that this Holy Week has been a blessing to you. I know that we're in a different place. We're in an unknown place, and we're social distancing, and this is a little bit weird for all of us. But know that in between Friday and Sunday, we have some Saturdays that we have to deal with. And sometimes it seems as though God is silent. It seems as though we don't have an answer. But there's an answer here. There's hope here in the scriptures. And God tells us to be still and know that I am God. Love you all. God bless.